And I'm back with part 2 of chapter 5. Last time we stopped on this title concerning evaluation of natural or environmental resources. So it's going to be interesting to learn how we can put values on natural resource such as forest and river and other natural resources that we have. There are two widely accepted broad categories of values as far as natural resources concerned. The first one is what we call use values. So the use values sort of takes into account those benefits that are derived from actual use of the natural resources. For example, what are the use that you derive from trees and forests? While the non-use values takes into account those benefits which do not imply a contact between a consumer and a good. So we will look into details of this in the next slides. Let us now see the technique of valuing environmental assets. Whether we want to value the use value or non-use value, we can use the following techniques to sort of do the job. So there are categorized into three broad groups. The first one is what we called travel cost method or TCM, and the second is hedonic pricing method, and the third is contingent valuation method. Okay, let's look at the first one, the TCM or the travel cost method. What it is that it gives best results when applied to well-defined recreational sites. Also, the travel cost method originally used to value environmental attributes using a guy called Hotelling back in 1947. That is done, for example, if a person travels to a recreational site or some park, to refresh himself, which is provided at, say, a zero price, and if you don't pay anything for recreating yourself in that park, then how you can value that park area is that he or she values, or the person values the area at a rate at least equal to the cost of getting there, okay, the travel cost method. So if there is an admission charge, then this is added on the travel cost and to obtain the willingness to pay for the attribute. So the willingness to pay of that recreation area in this case is the admission charge, or the something that you pay to enter to that recreation site, plus the cost you pay for transportation. So this Hotelling said in such a way we can sort of value or put a value on that site. So since the travel cost varies from person to person, it is then possible to think in terms of demand function. Look at an example of how we can calculate the value of the recreation site using the TCM method. So suppose that we have these four locations, location A, B, and C, and D. So let us look at A. Suppose the average value of visit, that is a travel cost, or the average transportation cost plus the admission cost per annual is only 45, and the annual number of visits is 20, then the total recreation value of that site is about 900, whatever currency you want to use. and you can apply the same to B, C, and D. Okay, so this is how we can calculate the value of certain environmental goods in this case the recreation site, using the travel cost method. Now there are some problems with using the TCM method. For example, the time element, the multiple visits journeys in the substitute sites, and purchasing of home nearby in non-paying distance. So all these points can be a problem for fully utilizing TCM on some of the environmental goods. Hedonic pricing method, or HPM, is another method that you can use to value the environmental goods. Usually this HPM applies to situations where markets can provide data which can be used to measure the willingness to pay, or WTP, for environmental quality difference. So HPM applies to markets for goods which have several attributes which are recognized by purchasers, but the attributes cannot be unbundled when purchasing the good. Especially in natural resource and environmental management, the HPM has been most frequently applied to the residential housing market for analysis of real property or land sales price data exhibiting differing but measurable environmental characteristics. Okay, for example, if your property or your residential house is nearby the bus station or train station, and that your property might be cheaper than the house that has the same quality as yours but resided in more silent areas. So the difference between the price of the two houses are measured to represent the environmental good. For example, the sound pollution, okay, the price that people are paying to avoid the sound pollution can be measured using these two residential housing located in different areas. Okay, so property market studies start from the assumption that property prices capture the quality of the environment, as I've just explained. Example again, other things being equal, one would expect properties in areas with clean air to command higher prices than houses in area with polluted air. So this is how in formula wise the HPM looks like. So the price of the environmental good is a function of structure of the house, neighborhood characteristics, or environmental characteristics. That is P is a function of SI, NI, and EI. So hedonic price is directly related to improvement in environmental quality. What are the problems with hedonic pricing method? First one is we often lack statistical information. Some variables may not be officially recorded, and this might result in unreliable data. Usually housing prices are distorted by brokers. The third interesting method of valuation is called contingent valuation method, or CVM. And this method sort of tries to identify the values that people derive from consuming environmental benefits by, questioning a sample of individuals in order to obtain their maximum willingness to pay to have the benefits or minimum compensation to go without the benefits. That is willingness to accept a loss of a benefit. Okay, so you design a questionnaire questioning individuals how much they're willing to pay to get the benefits of the environmental good. So doing that, we measure willingness to pay, WTP, and or willingness to accept, or WTA, for environmental goods. As I said, so you design the questionnaire method normally contains bids which are close to what would be revealed if a market existed. So in the event of willingness to accept, the process is reversed and the bids are systematically lowered until the individual's minimum willingness to accept is reached. Okay, let us look at take an example for this. Valuing the river water quality improvement using the CVM. So what you do is a representative sample of households from a local area where the river is located is asked their willingness to pay in terms of extra tax in order to maintain or increase the water quality. Okay, so assume you prepared 3 scenarios and you ask people about their willingness to pay in all these 3 scenarios. So the first scenario is maintain a river quality suitable for boating only. And the second is improve the water quality from boatable to the land where fishing could take place. Third is improvement in water quality from fishable to swimmable. So you ask people their willingness to pay for all these 3 options. So what you will get in the end is this water quality scenario. The first people are willing to pay on average about 24.5. In the second scenario, they are willing to pay about 70.6. In the third scenario, they're on average they're willing to pay about 12.4, whatever currency you want to apply to it. And the demand curve for water quality can be derived from this, and also individuals are prepared to pay relatively higher amount for an initial basic level of quality. Later on, they are prepared to pay progressively less to a higher level of water quality. So there are 2 main problems involved when we use the CVM method. The first one is our respondents might tend to understate their willingness to pay. Actually, they do have incentive to do so because they just don't want to pay according to how much they value that environmental good. So in understating their willingness to pay, they will influence the outcome of the bidding process or the valuation process. Also, the instrumental bias can be involved if we are not very knowledgeable of from where to start the bid. For example, if we start the bid from 5 per, it might give us a different result had we been started the bid by 15 birr or $15, for instance. So these 2 main problems might be involved in the using CVM to value the environmental good. These are just the revision of what we said, the steps involved in project evaluation, discounting future net benefits, and making the decision are the two main steps, and both are discussed in the previous part 1. And note that discounting for present values and compounding for future values are also involved in this process.